Have you been daydreaming about an epic adventure that could change your life? Do you have a gut feeling about grabbing your suitcase and leaving it all behind? Well, in today's episode of Sip Tea with Me, it's all about the incredible, soulful connections I've made through my adventures and how they've helped me grow and transform in ways I never could have imagined. Travel lights me up like nothing else. It's where I've found true freedom, discovered my authentic self, and met people who have deeply challenged me to live with love, courage, and compassion. These adventures have sparked my creativity, opened my heart, and expanded my understanding of who I really am. Whether it's finding love, connecting with lifelong friends, or discovering my own path to self-awareness, my travels have given me the most powerful experiences, and I know they can do the same for you. So if you're ready to be inspired and see how travel can have a massive impact on your life, grab a cuppa and let's get this transformational trip started. Hey fam, are you ready to prioritize your mental health, build that strong bod, grow some wealth, and pursue your passions with purpose in this crazy world? Then you've come to the right table. Grab a cuppa and get ready to sip tea with me. I'm your host, Aunt Lise, here to serve up the tea to help you find freedom and clarity in the midst of chaos and confusion. Your Riz needs to be fire because your unique gifts are what's going to create massive impact and initiate change right now. So get ready to slay because your authenticity is about to be lit. Welcome back, fam, to another episode of Sip Tea with Me. I'm your host, Lisa Schoenthal, and transformational guide on today's journey. We're going to be spilling the tea about love, connections, and relationships we find through travel and how these connections can completely transform our lives. Let's be real. It's not just about meeting people. It's about the way travel helps us understand ourselves, reveals the parts of us that have been hidden, and connects us to others who are walking similar paths of self-discovery. Travel has this magical way of pulling us into the moment, helping us let go of control, and surrendering to the flow of life. When we do that, we show up exactly where we are supposed to be. Every time we step into a new place, we step deeper into understanding who we are. It's when we leave the comfort of our home and explore new landscapes, cultures, and even food that we're given the space to reflect on our true selves. It reminds me of that quote by David Mitchell, "Travel far enough, you meet yourself." For me, travel has always been the place where I found true freedom. It's when I step away from home that I'm free from the noise, expectations, and worries, allowing me to sink into myself. Along the way, I've met people who reflect my authenticity, while others have challenged me, teaching me valuable lessons in patience, non-judgment, and resilience. Each encounter, whether uplifting or difficult, has shaped my understanding of connection, boundaries, and living in the moment. Not to mention speaking my truth. Among these incredible connections, I have met a few remarkable men, like the candy man in the Barrier Reef, the cowboy I met in Belize, and the doctor I met on the plane to the Caribbean. All those guys are featured in the original version of my book, The Men We Meet, 15 Key Lessons Learned in Love. And here's a spoiler alert, the addition of the sailor who I met in Sydney will be part of the upcoming 10th anniversary edition of the book. It's not just men that I've met, though. Some of my best girlfriends have come into my life through travel as well. My girlfriend Sue and I met as roommates in Bangkok, where they just threw us together. And guess what? We ended up leaving that tour and going on adventures of our own, all through Thailand. We both came from California. We're both Capricorns, and we formed a fast friendship, which grew with ease. And years later, I was honored to officiate her wedding. While traveling solo in Bali, I met June, an Englishwoman and also a solar traveler, and Astrid, a beautiful Balinese girl who worked at the hotel. They found out it was my birthday and created the most wonderful celebration just days after we met. Years later, I visited June in the south of Spain, and on another trip, I reunited with Astrid in Bilbao, Spain, where she had moved to take a nanny position. And of course, I must mention all of my Aussies. Craig, who came to the U.S. when we were teens, he was traveling our direction with the soccer team. My girlfriend Jackie, who I met while my sister and I traveled in Europe in 1997. Then Jackie came back and forth to the States several times, and finally I made it to Sydney to see her. And that was the trip where I met the Candyman. Then my brother went to visit Craig back Then my brother went to visit Craig and brought back my Aussie bestie and sister, Lisa, who introduced me to my soul sister, Leah, and the two of them had connected me to so many incredible women. I'll talk about how Australia is my soul's home in another episode, but see how everything is intertwined? And as soon as we follow an instinct and listen to our heart, the doors will fly wide open. This also happened New Year's Eve 2023 when I decided to drop my work trip and be with family instead. On that trip, I met Mindy, a college professor who moonlights at the sweetest bed and breakfast in Raleigh, North Carolina. Amazing enough, she had a kitchen stocked full of the most gorgeous loose leaf tea and offered to brew a pot and have a chat with me. Our conversation was a huge inspiration to make Sip Tea with me a reality. It reminded me of those moments that my Grandma Pansy and I used to sit at the table and really get down to business. And I didn't really even know Mindy at the time, but somehow, I guess our souls just recognized each other. And we both had the same mission to help people and serve a purpose in the world. We're both really passionate about what we do, and we sort of just hit it off. You just never know who will be drawn into your life and what they will offer to light up your world and remind you of who you truly are. These relationships have played a pivotal role in my growth and self-awareness. And guess what? If you are called to travel, I know your adventures will offer you the same. As you can see, travel has a huge way of bringing us face to face with people who mirror aspects of ourselves we may not have even noticed. It's not just about seeking out connections. It's about showing up as your true self and allowing the universe to bring the right people into your life. Surrendering to the flow of travel allows us to trust the people we're meant to meet will find us when we stop holding on so tightly to our expectations. It's about following our intuition and gut instincts and letting go of the pressure from jobs, family, or even ourselves. When we do, we find ourselves in the perfect places at the perfect times. I can't count the times I've met someone on my travels who's changed the course of my journey, whether it was a soul-aligned friendship or a brief moment of connection that made me look at life way differently. This reminds me of a quote from St. Augustine: "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page." Travel isn't just about visiting places. It's about writing new chapters of your life through the people you meet and the relationships that unfold along the way. Whether it's a random encounter in a cafe in Paris or a spontaneous conversation with someone on a hike in your own home state, travel has a way of showing us that the people we're meant to meet will find us, often when we're least expecting it. Love, especially the kind of love that helps us grow, is something we find in the most unexpected places. Whether it's a romantic connection or a deep friendship, travel has a way of placing us in situations where we're able to see ourselves more clearly, free from the noise of everyday life. And when we travel, we get away from the judgments and expectations of home, whether it's from work, family, friends, and we can finally tune into our inner voice. We start to follow our intuition and make decisions based on how we feel in the moment. Because to travel is to take a journey into yourself. By Danny Kaye. Have you ever had one of those moments while traveling when you feel like the world around you has fallen away and all that's left is you? It's in those moments we often find clarity, whether it's a beautiful sunset, a quiet walk through a new city, or a conversation with someone who makes you see the world differently. Travel is a mirror. It shows us who we are and where we need to go. I've met people on my travels who have challenged me to face parts of myself I've been avoiding, and in doing so, they've shown me a deeper love for who I am. It reminds me of this time when I traveled to Machu Picchu, and it was a beautiful trip. It was very last minute. I had a girlfriend, Leora, who I met through dance, and she called me very last minute. I think it was 10 days before we were supposed to leave on this trip, and said, "I just keep having this feeling that you're supposed to be on this trip with me." And so it was. And the timing was really epic because I had just broken up with the Candy Man, and it was really heartbreaking. I didn't understand it. We had created, if you've read the book, you already know the story, but we had created this incredibly beautiful life and it all just fell apart. I thought I was going to get married. I thought I was going to have a family. I had built this beautiful illusion. We lived in this gorgeous house with an ocean view and I had my favorite car ever in the driveway. And I thought we had built something gorgeous and it all crumbled. And I found myself living in an apartment by myself, teaching yoga to kids on the beach, which was really wonderful and healing for me. But that was when I remembered I needed to get back out and travel. And this trip Leora invited me on came at the perfect time. It was with a bunch of dancers, which was amazing. But what happened was we took an adventure to Machu Picchu and I wasn't feeling that well. So I couldn't hike as much as I wanted to. So I found myself just kind of roaming around in the lower areas with my journal in my backpack. And I found this stairway that went to nowhere. It basically was just a platform and then stairs that went straight down to nowhere. And then they fell off into like a big hole. And I just sat at the edge of it and began to write in my journal. And it was a moment where I knew that, that this journey to Machu Picchu had called me. It had brought me home so that I could heal myself. That land, it's so magical. I'll never be able to explain it. If you haven't been there, please try to go. If you have, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. It's an incredibly magical place, probably the most connected to Mama Gaia or Mother Earth I've ever felt. And what the Quechuan shamans kept saying was, if there's something you need to leave here, if there's something that is not serving you, you can go ahead and just ask Mother Earth to take it from you and to absorb it and to set you free. It was the ultimate level of surrender and it worked. And I still have those writings in my journal today. And that story still sits with me and comes to life when I feel what an impact it had in my world. So here's what I've learned over the years. The relationships you form while traveling can shape you in ways that nothing else can. Travel pushes us to step out of our comfort zones and into the unknown, whether it's a different culture, a new language, or a completely different way of living. And it's the unknown that we meet people who help us to transform. Sometimes you have to get a little lost to find yourself. That's an anonymous quote I absolutely love. My other one that I've coined personally is, wherever you are, you are. Those are my favorites. The beauty of travel is that often leads to exactly what we need, not just in the terms of destinations, but in the terms of the people we meet and the lessons they teach us. These relationships bring us closer to our authentic selves and help us release old fears, judgments, and those expectations. When you show up with your heart open and your true self on display, you create the space for real, transformative connections. The universe always brings people into our lives who will help us evolve, even if they're only in our lives for a short time. Travel isn't just about that destination. It's about the journey. We're often faced with new landscapes, unfamiliar cultures, new foods, and challenges that push us to grow. Each new place we visit helps us to discover different aspects of who we are. Following our intuition becomes much easier when we allow ourselves to be in the moment. We find our own pace, whether it's how we sleep, when we eat, or how we move from place to place. We have a huge sense of freedom. We begin to feel the flow. We get on our own rhythm and let everyone else's fall away. It's time for us to embrace that flow and trust things will unfold as they're meant to. The beauty of this is that we finally find the rhythm that's true to who we are, not bound by the expectations of others. We begin to listen to our inner voices and trust it's guiding us exactly where we need to go. When you travel with your whole heart open, you make space for the right connections to show up, whether it's love, friendship, or relationships, to help you become your truest self. So here's my invitation for you today. Take a moment and reflect on the people you've met while traveling. Who has transformed your life? Who helped you see yourself in a way that you hadn't before? These relationships are the gifts of travel, and they continue to shape who we are. Also, if you haven't traveled, or if you want to continue diving in with some action items, just think about sitting quietly and asking yourself, where am I called to travel to? Is there a food, a culture, a design style, a type of geography, religion, animal, or spiritual belief that keeps resonating with you? Is there a location that keeps coming up in conversations? You meet people from that country or town or city. You are watching a movie and you see that message again. Maybe you're just watching the news and something comes up. Maybe you're reading a book and it's talking about Paris and you just met someone from Paris and your friend is going to Paris and you happen to eat at a little French restaurant. All of these are hints reminding you where your heart is being called to. Also, feel into experiences which you have already had that have impacted you, even if they happen close to home, and begin to build your next adventure from there. This is how I have decided to go on every trip I have ever gone on, other than the one Leora invited me on. But I also know when those opportunities come, when someone invites you somewhere, you really have to sit with your gut instinct and ask yourself, is this my next best step? But all of my other trips were just these overlapping of messages. Like when I was a child, my whole entire room was covered with pictures of Greece and Ireland. I had no idea. Our family did not travel. If we did, we went camping or across the sea to Catalina Island. And we didn't really go anywhere. And I didn't really know anyone that traveled a whole bunch. But still, there was something about these places that called to me. And anytime I would see a picture in a magazine, I would cut it out and put it on my wall until my whole wall was covered. Guess what? I have still not been to Ireland, but I know there's a huge spiritual awakening waiting for me there when the time is right. But I have been to Greece twice, and it was so crazy. It was like everything about Greece was familiar to me, from the artwork to the food, to the people, to the islands. It was all like I had already been there before. Of course, I've talked about how I believe in reincarnation, so I'm sure I've had a lifetime there. When I was in junior high and high school, mythology was like, I was just super obsessed with it. So there's things, we have these little ideas, like when we come to this lifetime, we have sort of an idea of what we want to do while we're here and what we want to see and what would help us to grow. And those little intuitions are the remembrances of what we're supposed to be doing here. A couple journal items for you as you begin to plan your next adventure is to ask yourself, how has travel helped you discover parts of yourself that you might have missed in your everyday life? Number 2, think about the people you've met on your travels and what connections have made the most impact on you and why. And again, if you haven't traveled a lot yet, just think about your life. Number 3 is, how can you approach your next journey with the intention of forming more authentic, transformative relationships and increasing personal growth? I'd love for you to share your stories with me, to tell me about a special destination, a meaning-filled experience, or a person you've met on your travels who's changed your life, helped you grow, or made you see more clearly. Together, let's keep transforming through these connections. You can find me on all the socials. You can reach out to me and join my email list at www.lisaschoenthal.com. You can find me on TikTok at Sip Tea with Me, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Lisa Schoenthal. You can connect to all of that on my website. I look forward to hearing your stories. Please share them with me. You inspire me as much as I hope to inspire you. I thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. If you have any questions, suggestions, or something exciting to talk about, please let me know. Otherwise, until next week when we talk about just loving yourself up. It's February when I'm recording these, so of course, the month of love, even though I believe love should be celebrated every day, we're going to dive deep into a whole bunch of yummy, juicy self-love next week. Thanks so much for listening and following Sip Tea with me. It's so important that you embrace your passion and purpose so that you can have a massive impact and take necessary action to change the world. This time with you means so much to me because it allows me to honor and serve my life purpose of inspiring, empowering, and awakening the hearts and minds of you, the next gen, because you are our future. Remember, I'm here to help. I see you. I believe in your ability to make the world a better place. Make sure you hit that follow button, invite a friend, and tune in again next week, fam, as we continue to transform, evolve, and awaken authenticity together. Until then, much love from Auntie Lise.